If you set the textures on your own, then be aware that you have always set the metallic, roughness and normal textures to non-color. A color ramp is a good way to change the strength of a roughness map. For example, I reduce it with the left slider and I make it stronger with the right slider. One important thing you have to know if you are using displacement maps is that you have to set the displacement under the settings to displacement only. Then you get real displacement. But be aware, this works only for cycles. Eevee doesn't support material displacement, unfortunately. And the mesh has also to be subdivided enough that the displacement works correctly. If you ever need to combine displacement maps, it can be done with a simple color mix node. So just connect the two displacement maps and now with the factor you can mix them two together. If you also want to change the colors of materials in the solid mode, you can simply go to the Viewport display and then under color select a color. And now for the different materials you can select different colors. If you have large scenes and don't want to change the viewport display color for all objects separately, then you could just go to the shading and then say random. Here's a little node setup how you could combine an principled BSDF with an emission shader. We have a green light point here and now we can control the light influence with the mix shader. It's not always necessary to use a UV map. Sometimes it's enough if you connect the vector to generate it or to object. A simple way to make good looking transparent water is by just using a volume absorption node in addition with a mix shader node and a glass BSDF and a transparent BSDF. If your object is in a very old dusty room, it can be very helpful to mix the normal texture setup with a dust shader. I appended here one I made from a Blender Guru tutorial, and I can influence the dust amount with the multiplier value. You can also find the dust shader for free on my website. Here's a comparison between the normal glass shader on the left side and the improved version. Don't wonder, here's a principled BSDF used, but you could also use a glass shader if you want. The important thing is to mix it with a transparent BSDF and use the light path as the factor. Blender has built in many textures, like Voronoi textures, sky textures, or even brick textures. If you want to assign a material to only a specific part of the mesh, you could only select the mesh, then here press on the plus button, select the material you want, and then go to the edit mode, select the face and the new material and then press assign. If you import a transparent image, then you first have to go to the settings, blend mode and set it to alpha blend, alpha hashed or alpha clip. And now it's also transparent in Eevee. If you want to make a clay render, for example, and are searching for an easy way to replace all textures for the render, then you could just go to the view layer properties, and under override you could select your material, and then if you render it, the material is applied. The adaptive subdivision function subdivide meshes depending on how close the camera is to the object, so you get more detail if you're closer. And to get this function, you have to set the future set to experimental. And now if you select an object with a subdivision modifier, now the adaptive subdivision function is available.